Have you ever found yourself in a frightening scenario that felt like something from a thriller? Consider this. The person you thought you knew best abruptly transforms into a stranger. That is precisely what occurred to me when I decided to surprise my wife with divorce papers. I expected a straightforward talk, but it turned into a nightmare. How can you manage when love turns into betrayal? How far would you go to protect yourself? I never anticipated my simple act to result in a fight for my life. Let me walk you through this horrible encounter, which changed everything. My wife attempted to kill me after I shocked her with divorce papers. The fact that I'm writing this indicates that my wife is a cheating liar. It is unpleasant to admit, but knowing the truth is preferable to living in uncertainty and fear. Now that I know, I need to figure out my next step. A little background. I am 28 and have been married to my 26-year-old wife for 4 years. We had dated for 2 years before that. We were married early, but that didn't worry us. I observed right away that she was compassionate. She couldn't take blood or violence and frequently crumpled under stress. While unpleasant, I still loved her and was eager to help her. We relocated to a different place when we married since my job paid much more. She complained about leaving her mother but soon settled in. We chose a fantastic apartment, and I made every effort to make her feel at ease. The difficulty began one day when I returned home and discovered a small piece of plastic on the floor near my bedside table. It appeared to be from an instant ramen packet. My thoughts turned to condoms, but we'd never used them, so that didn't make sense. It was difficult to believe she would cheat. She did not seem like the kind. I asked her about it, and she looked just as perplexed. That did not put my mind at ease, so I kept my eyes open. Days passed, and I brushed off my suspicions, until everything changed. I suppose that's what occurs when they're so mild that they can be ignored. Unfortunately, the actual difficulty began when I discovered an empty condom wrapper under the bed. This one had the entire edge pulled off and wasn't dirty, so there was no way to convince me it was there when we moved in. We outfitted the flat ourselves, and I'm confident I would have noticed a used condom wrapper on the bedroom floor. To be honest, I had to think about whether we used a condom at any point, but I was sure there wasn't. The way I felt at that time was just awful since I had what was essentially proof of a cheating wife, but I still didn't feel confident enough. You may call me foolish because it was all the proof I needed, but you may be unaware of how denial works. I wanted to be proven wrong in that moment more than I ever had in my life. I didn't tell her what I'd discovered then, and I still haven't. I have kept it to myself. Nevertheless, I received the confirmation and action I needed when I checked her Twitter account. I refused to call it X because it was her most popular social media app. I don't use it, but it must have always felt like a safe place for her. Explains why she was preoccupied with flirting with a specific guy who appeared in every single one of her comments. That prompted me to grab her phone to browse her DMs with the same person on Twitter. The chat was really obscene. Honestly, it was more explicit than I had ever known her to be, and she clearly had specific kinks that she was too shy to show me. That portion irritated me because I've always been open in the bedroom. Still, those parts of her could have been exposed to someone other than her husband. Other texts clearly indicated that the two of them had slept together. She had cheated on me with this guy, or rather, she still is, because it was definitely not a one-time event for them. At least for him. How do I know how many others there are? I learned to document evidence during my stay here. Therefore, I took as many images as possible. It will come in helpful when I visit a divorce lawyer. So that is about it. I know my wife is cheating on me, and it really kills my heart. I'm also perplexed by the situation because I never believed she had the mental fortitude for something as shady as this, but you never truly know people. I was stupid for thinking that in the first place, so you don't need to inform me. I am not going to confront her. I will just locate a lawyer and have the papers served on her. I won't waste time doing all this because I can't stomach living in the same house with her anymore. I've hired an excellent lawyer. He probably costs more than I'd like to pay anyone, but I want the job done as quickly, smoothly, and in my favor. So the money is worth it right now, especially if he can rescue my buttocks in the process. Alimony. Honestly, finding that empty condom wrapper and then coming across those graphic texts was heartbreaking. It's difficult to reconcile the girl I thought I knew with the truth of what she's been doing behind my back. Consulting a lawyer was a big step for me to recover my life and ensure I'm safe going ahead. I've been writing down everything I've learned because I know it will be useful when going through the divorce process. I want to be very clear about the financial component, particularly alimony, and I am simply trying to be proactive at this stage. First and foremost, I want to say that I was able to obtain legal representation. We discussed it, I paid the retainer, and he had the divorce paperwork ready for me shortly thereafter. He was efficient, which was excellent, but that retainer still stings when I think about it. My life changed completely the day I chose to serve my wife with divorce papers. I hadn't confronted her about the adultery previously. Instead, I approached her while she was sitting on the couch watching television and handed her the envelope. She stared at it, puzzled, before opening it and taking out the papers. I saw the color fade from her face. Her hands began to shake, and for a brief moment I was concerned she was about to have a heart attack or something. She finally asked me, "Why?" That was the moment I told her everything I knew. I started with the condom wrapper I found, then her chatting with the guy on Twitter, and ultimately, the DMs I discovered while going through her phone. She just broke down, crying hysterically and screaming "please" over and over again, as if it was the only word she could say at the time. But I was not going to give in to her pleas. Honestly, as much as I adored her before all of this, it felt like I was killing two birds with one stone. I wouldn't have to cope with her betrayal or vulnerability again. I kept shaking my head because that was the only way to keep from yelling every curse I could come up with at her. After a while, she dropped onto the floor, weary of crying. I told her to go to her bedroom, pack some basics, and depart. I gave her 15 minutes. While she was packing, I sat on the couch watching the TV, which was not turned on. I did not even want to look at her. I just wanted her gone. I never expected to find myself in such a scenario. After uncovering my wife's infidelity, first through a discarded condom wrapper, then explicit messages with another man, I realized I had to act. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank television, wishing she would go. Lost in my thoughts, I noticed movement in the TV's reflection. I turned to find her wielding a knife just as she stabbed me in the shoulder. Everything went blurry. She stabbed me twice more before I could respond. I recall trying to reach the phone to dial 911 before passing out. I awoke in the hospital disoriented and with no memory of how I got there. I then discovered that she had been charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, and assault with a deadly weapon. After the trial, she was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to 10 years in jail. This tragedy has left me with physical and emotional scars. It is challenging to trust again after such betrayal. I am glad for my life and the support I have gotten, but the pain of this event will be with me for a long time. She's no longer my problem. She is no longer my wife, and by the time she gets out of prison, I will have settled into my new life, whatever it may be. I hope she likes prison, however. I'd be willing to pay a lot to see how her fragile personality would fare over 10 years. Perhaps this was the key to convincing her to be tough all along. Anyway, to everyone reading this, I'm not sure what message I should leave you with. Trust no one, not even your wife, and try not to get stabbed or whatever. The whole situation wasn't worth it for me, but what happened occurred, and now I'm just going to attempt to go on. I am so relieved to be alive and on the other side of such a horrible experience. It's evident that her actions directly reacted to the truth being revealed, and it's concerning how far she was ready to go to avoid confronting the repercussions. That she was found guilty of all charges relieves me, even if the sentence was not what my lawyer and I had hoped for. 10 years is still an extended period, and knowing she will be held accountable for her acts is reassuring. I deserve the peace of mind that comes from knowing she will not be a part of my life in the future. Do you have a similar story? I'm not alone, and I'd love to hear about your horrible breakups in the comments below. Thank you for joining me today and sharing this adventure. Please subscribe for similar content if you found this article relatable or informative. Your contribution is greatly appreciated, and I would be delighted to have you as a community member. Until the next time, take care.